Welcome everyone to Wild Magic Harmony. This is episode 6 where we talk about deepening the gratitude practice. And it's great to have Deb and Melissa up in the house. Bee Priestesses here, and great to have you coming up to circle with us. So we're going to really talk about gratitude, and this time of year it's a common, I don't want to say a fad theme that people do, but it is something that as we come around Thanksgiving, of course, it's natural to turn to thoughts of gratitude, but really just getting in deeper into that practice and how you can deepen your own practice. And yeah, so looking forward to sharing that with you today. But first we'll start like we always do, coming into our bodies. So just inviting you to settle in here. So just sitting up nice and straight, both feet on the floor. So grateful for Mother Earth, always there for us. I call her our eternal mother with no emotional baggage attached. She's always there for us to receive and to support us. So just being cradled in her loving embrace today. Maybe pressing one foot into the floor and then the other. Imagining those grounding cords coming out of your feet. Beautiful vines making their way down into the earth. Winding wide, winding deep. Gratitude for the bodies that carry our human spirit. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So grateful for this body temple. So just inviting you to drop deeper into that temple, into that space. Because we are focusing on gratitude, perhaps placing one hand over the heart and the other over your belly. And things that we take for granted, like breath, starting to focus on bringing the breath deeper into the belly now. And as you gently inflate like a beautiful balloon, feeling the chest rise at the top of the breath. And then following the path back out. Again, so grateful for being able to take nice full breaths, especially after these past couple years of immunocompromised and breath compromised. And so from this grounded place, I invite you into circle now. And I welcome the elements. And here I'll bring in air. I have some beautiful bubbles here, welcoming air. So grateful for the cleansing and clearing you bring. Bringing in change, bringing in new things for us, new beginnings. And feeling air filling our lungs and our belly, bringing us oxygen and nourishment, sustaining our life and our energy. Next, we welcome in fire. Beautiful fire, lighting our way through the dark times of the year coming up. Burning away all that is no longer serving us. Again, creating space in its wake. So grateful for its warmth and its light. Next, we welcome water, washing away, again, all that is no longer needed now. Water finds its way around any boundary in its own gentle but persistent way. And our blood echoing that water in our own body, moving through our veins, again, nourishing and giving us energy. And finally, beautiful solid earth. I have my bee pillow here. Feeling that connection again to beautiful Mother Earth, to Gaia, thanking her for all of her gifts as we come into harvest season, as we come together at holiday tables, sharing our food and our company. Again, just grateful for that constant love and support. And in the center, welcoming ourselves. So just feeling that energy filling the body now, pulsating through the body, warmth, beautiful light, gratitude. We also welcome our spirits and guides, healing masters, angels of light, divine feminine, asking that you be with us to give us what messages we might need today, to help us see the gratitude and all that goes on in our lives, even the opportunities for diving into the shadow side. For those also offer their own opportunities and gifts, even though it may not be obvious when they're happening. So just asking for your protection and safety and clarity for us today. Always for the highest good. And so it is.
Would it be? It's lovely. That almost brought me to tears. I really needed that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I really do try to, when I'm doing my yoga practice or sharing chair yoga with my sister, I really try to bring in that Mother Earth energy of grounding and support and just gratitude for her cradling us in our journeys. So yeah.
Did feel that shrouded feeling. So. Yeah, I'm grateful to be here with you. We were both saying before we started, we're feeling a little wonky today.
Yeah, you can probably hear how congested I am.
Yeah, but well, we're living the gratitude, right? Of being able to sit in space and sit here with all of our community to discuss gratitude. Yeah, and to feel it. It's very tangible in that meditation. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I don't know if I was going to dive a little deeper into specifically yoga practices and gratitude. You know, I've been doing yoga a long time and it's always been a part of my practice. And I don't really know maybe even some of the origins of it. I just know that it's something that my teachers have always invited in into the practice. And specifically the Anjuli Mudra, which is prayer hands, which is basically all the fingers and palms meeting. Our thumb knuckles come to the sternum and press in gently, and our heart lifts up towards them. It just can be a sign of gratitude, right? We might bow to each other. I often do this gesture, even subconsciously for folks. But it can be a beautiful way to, and it brings the right and the left brain together. It brings the masculine and feminine together in the body in a very
lift up your hand a little more. Lift up your hands. Then turn maybe to the side so you can show me with and then the heart, the thumbs go to the sternum.
The sternum, yeah. So coming in like that.
I've seen that and I've wondered, is it just that person's interpretation of that or is there something to it? So that's answers a question I've had for a while. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And then the other place where it really showed up, certainly during my teacher training, was in, so that there's the yamas and the niyamas in yoga, which kind of are guidelines for how to be in the world in an uplifted way. So looking at our behaviors, looking at our human tendencies to, be lazy or be greedy or whatever. So it's these yamas and niyamas are a way to reflect on your behavior. And so the specific one is called aparigraha. And what it means is non-grasping, right? So a lot of times, especially if we might be fearful of losing something, we might, reach out and grab on and not let go, even though really it would be best to serve us if we did let go and just let it, surrender to whatever is. But specifically talking about material possessions, but also beliefs that we have about ourselves or others. Career choices we've made that maybe are no longer serving us, relationships that are perhaps not in our best interest any longer. So as much as we can let go of that. And one way, especially material wise, is just to honestly be grateful for what we do have. And so focusing on that idea of having gratitude for what you already have and really reflecting on what you have can often be a way to feel satisfied and fulfilled instead of always kind of looking externally for fulfillment and feeling, like you're whole. So
it's such an ancient teaching, but it's so, I suppose just the nature of humans has been what it is since we've been human, but certainly in the modern day, the keeping up with the Joneses and we're a very acquisitioning, especially, the Western world, we're very grasping individuals as a rule. Many of us can identify with that consumer-based or consumerism, or that, need to pull towards us things that maybe we just don't recognize, are part of a thought process that we get so habituated towards, it doesn't even seem like nothing's out of place, because we're so used to doing that, as opposed to, whoa, horse, something's definitely not right in Dodge here. This is definitely not how many things do we need to feel whole or ourselves or whatever. And it's not to say that we shouldn't have things. It's just the nature of your relationship with them, I suppose. And the again, the gratitude, the appreciation of the things that we have, and do we care for those things? Are they blessings, or are they just, kind of like the kid that opens a present and tosses it aside and like, where's the next one, or whatever. So it brings up those kind of, like here it says, an attitude of stewardship toward the material world, as opposed to, sort of the accumulation habit, I guess.
Yeah, especially over the past, couple of years where we haven't had access to everything. And certainly now there's still supply issues, and really, I feel like it just calls this whole thing into question. And, remember that time we were like, thank God I had some toilet paper, like it's just very simple, easy things. But yes, I think especially this time of year, moving back into let's, buy everything for everyone instead of just really, and that's something I grew up with, that with my kids, I really tried to get things that were more about the experience of being together. So like seeing a ballet in Boston or another show, or, taking a trip together, instead of focusing on the material things. So yeah.
It's very poignant. I think, of course, again, this time of year, but it's, Hallmark and consumerism have every month there's something to acquire if you go with that. So,
that's right.
So the new year, Valentine's Day, spring, Easter, just around it goes.
And also, why is there always chocolate associated with it?
Chocolate.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm going to get off chocolate this month, right?
Not a bad thing in this person's eyes, but it's making me think too about, of course, because I'm wired this way, but like, I don't know what if this segue is going to make sense or not, but there's something about, okay, so if it is, say, it is a time to, whether it's Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, Yule, of giving something, the thing that I have done for years that I really, it just fills my heart to do it, is to make things for people instead of buy things, like, or buy something that's been made by hand by someone, or that there's actual connection, like a human connection with the thing, or at least try to focus on that, so that somehow adds an element to it that I respond to, I guess, because I am a maker. But there's just something so precious when you open it and like someone has put energy into that and time. And I mean, you could say someone that's been, sitting in a sweatshop in China, there's been energy put into that too, but it's a different thing that I'm talking about. Like, it's an intentional, joy. That person has a passion for making those things, or, like trying to buy from local people that are artisans, or maybe it costs a little more, but what you get from it, it's like every time you pick that thing up, it holds that energy source, and it's more like your quote was talking about, like the stewardship of your belongings. Like everyone, it feels like a little friend. It's like, oh, I remember when I got that, and I remember when so-and-so made it, or, I remember that this artist from Maine, like whatever. I think there's something there that creates a different sort of connection with things that makes it more alive or more meaningful, or, it also takes thought and planning to do that, doesn't it? Because you can't just, go out and grab some. I mean, there's just something to that it shows a caring, or it shows an investment, or it shows a relationship that's maybe a little bit more heart connected. I don't know. Just there's something about that. And of course, we can't always do that. But I think that when we can, I'm one of those persons that I've always made gifts for people since I was a kid. But to me, there's just something so lovely about, I think I love the pleasure that someone has when they open something that has been prepared that way. So I think it's partly that, but it's partly just all that goes with that series of connections along the way, and that I think relates to the stewardship and the caring and the presence. And things have presence, objects have souls.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel the energy, and you give me that cute little, so Deb gave me a cute gift last week. She left it for me in my office, and I opened it, and it was so delightful. It was a travel altar, and I was just so tickled by the little things. There was a little like pine cone and a little crystal and a little piece of wood, and it just was so adorable. But I could feel the energy from it when I opened it. And obviously I know Deb personally, but I could tell that there was so much care and thought and loveliness put into that. So I agree, especially if you are making a gift for someone specifically, it's a way of witnessing that person, right?
Ooh, I like that word.
Yeah. Yeah. And my son is really a great gift giver, and you can always tell he thought of you and no one else when he was getting you the gifts he got you. And so I love that there's different ways, right? There's different love languages, right? And certainly gift giving is one of them. But again, it's acknowledging the other person, keeping in mind the things that delight them, maybe that it doesn't really mean anything to you. So I love that. And I do agree. I feel that energy from homemade gifts or from artisan created. It's fun to go to craft fairs and things like that and just see the pride that people have in what they've put out into the world. And it's just another way of expressing that second chakra, that sacral, creative, birthing. So yeah.
And to me, it's the heart, very much the heart, and so I guess, this topic has a lot to do with the heart, doesn't it? Gratitude is a very heart chakra based experience, conversation that we're having today too, because when I think of it, that's the first chakra I think of is heart.
Right. I always place my hands over the heart if I'm grateful for someone or something.
Yeah.
It just like automatically goes there. So, but of course, me being Melissa, I had to find some research that prove that gratitude is a positive experience. So I will put something in the show notes about it. But basically, there were these folks, Robert Emmons out of UCA and another gentleman out of UMiami, that actually tried to, this is such an intangible thing that they tried to find a way to quantify it. And so they found that participants who were carrying this gratitude condition, I think they held these beliefs and they repeated it to themselves for a couple of weeks, reported considerably more satisfaction with their lives as a whole. They felt more optimism about the upcoming week and felt more connected with others than did the participants in the control condition. Just proving that positive emotions broaden mindsets and build enduring personal resources. So, and then, I think it's easy to be grateful when everything's great and you're in a loving place, but I think might be more challenging to express gratitude. So I'd like to talk more about that when we're in a place of struggle or suffering or, discomfort. Like, how do we cultivate gratitude even in those moments? So I think the practice of doing it when things are going well, just like meditation, if you practice breathing when everything's going well, then when you really need it, when things aren't going well, it's ready in there for you and your body's like, oh, I know how to do this. So I just wanted to bring that study in. So again, I'll put that in the notes. So,
you're making me think of that book that you mentioned that was a gift.
Yes.
And what that made me think of, the Gratitude Journal for Women.
Yes, called the Gratitude Journal for Women. Illustrations by Katie Vernon, and the text is by, I believe, Catherine Furman. And again, I'll put that in the show notes.
So, the thought that kind of piggybacked onto the study that you were talking about is, and like you said, when things are challenging, how we can sink into that rabbit hole of negativity. But if you have a practice like that, say you have the book, right? And it's like, well, this is what I do every day. So, this could have been a shit day, but I'm still going to pull out what is there? I'm going to pull out my journal. Is there anything from this day that I can
say, out of
bed? Yes, I'm still breathing. Okay. Is that I don't know, maybe that's not a good thing, but I am. So, maybe I'm going to spin it as a positive thing, but that sometimes that is, I think there is something in terms of brain chemistry to fake it till you make it, because it has been shown, since we're going down the sciencey path, that for a minute, to just tease out another aspect of that, is that we know that the brain cannot distinguish between something we're imagining and something that's happening, right? So what a vibration shifter, brain chemistry twister is, fake it till you make it, write down, I'm breathing, or whatever the thing is, because we do know that our body chemistry does respond to that. And we can literally, it's possible, challenging, but possible, to think ourselves into a higher frequency or vibration. So I've always found, I guess, refuge in that fact, because there are times where it's just not great, just not feeling it. However, this fake it till you make it technique is something that has some meat on its bones, and it does work. We know that. Not only from our own.
It's not like a Pollyanna thing either, where you're just like, oh, everything's just great. Well, maybe things aren't great. And we're not suggesting people be sticking their heads in the sand or pretending like something isn't happening that's happening for them, but more about, even though this is happening, what can I, in this moment, have gratitude for? Again, even if it's just the fact that I'm taking deep breaths, because there are people out there who can't, kind of things. So, yeah.
And I think it does harken back to what we spoke about with Caitlin last month, when we were exploring, grief in particular, and how, there can be room in our lives for everything at once. We could be grieving, but there's also like this gorgeous stream of sunlight that's coming through the window that brings us joy simultaneously, and we're not faking that we're not grieving. It's that all of this we're big enough for, our human experience is big enough for all of these things,
I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that in, right? We are just a complicated mix of bag of chemicals, right?
We are a cauldron of many, many bits and pieces, for sure.
Cauldron, that's a much better word for it.
Well, it's all, right? Yeah, we got it all. So, at first glance, gratitude, like when Melissa and I were discussing a topic for this month, I was like, it is a sort of rote topic for this month because of Thanksgiving. A lot of people are already thinking about it, and I was resistant to it because I didn't want it to be like the trite or the rote topic. And so I think conversations like this transcend the hallmark level of tuning into gratitude. This is not the Hallmark experience we're talking about. This is not the $5.99 card in CVS that we're talking about right now. I mean, sure, that can be a door opener. At least, again, people are thinking about gratitude and gratefulness. But, we're hoping to maybe establish a foothold in places that are a little, maybe a little unexpected. Maybe you have experienced this or thought about it. Maybe you haven't, but I guess because I'm a mystic by nature, I tend to also look at the spiritual or mystical or the deeper sort of soulful aspects of it as well. And I'm, in doing our research for this topic today, we pulled a couple of insights from some of, the world's current visionaries in that regard. So maybe I'll toss out a couple of those discussion points as well. And then we can, unless you want to loop back around to, do you want to loop back around to Sarah first, Melissa?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
love her. I don't know if
Yeah.
you read her
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
yet. So Simple Abundance, this was in the 90s, I think, when I first came across it. I was going through my divorce at the time and just really feeling very heart sick and sad. I had young children and I felt like I was a failure. And, I just felt very lost at the time. And my mom might have even given me the book, but it was the perfect gift at the time. And so what the Simple Abundance book does, and she's put out other books since then, but it really encourages you every day to kind of focus on different things throughout the year. And so it's a day by day ability to come in and just take a little bit for yourself every day. And so from that, I'm pretty sure that's where I started my 5-a-day practice, where I basically would write down 5 things every day that I was grateful for. And, I've come in and out of it through the years. Even this journal that I was looking back at, I started this in 2019, and there's periods where I didn't write. And I was even looking through like COVID last year, and just like the ability to be outside and very simple things I just felt so grateful for it. Right. But she's a great resource. And again, we'll throw her in the show notes, but she also, I did believe she did put out a gratitude journal. So if you're looking for something a little more formalized, or maybe even Deb had some stuff in her beautiful collection that she could offer out. I think those are great ways to solidify the practice for yourself, or just grab a notebook and just start doing it. So,
and you had a
great.
quote by her too, didn't you? Yeah.
I actually went by from Edwin
Oh,
Bryant,
sorry.
and I think you're fine. I think you're going to get into this too when you talk about your stuff, but it says, Edwin Bryant says, true happiness comes from a deep contentment with whatever one has, not with thinking that one will be happy when one gets all that one desires. Right. So I think we're led to believe that when this happens, or when I get this promotion, or when I marry this man, or when I do this thing, then I'm going to be happy. And so we're always in that place of waiting and waiting. And then that's pulling us out of being in the present moment. So I really love that quote, that idea. And again, I think you're going to expand on that. So
yeah, well, I'll look it up, but there's something I wanted to say something about Eckhart Tolle, but he does a few passages about waiting and how that pulls you out of having any chance of feeling gratitude about your life. But a couple quotes. Oh, I do have a quote that talks a little bit about that, but he says, when you go deeply into the present, gratitude arises spontaneously, which I totally agree with that. Even if it's just gratitude for breathing, gratitude for the aliveness that you feel in your body. Gratitude is there when you acknowledge the aliveness of the present moment. And then another piece of this was, for example, many people are waiting for prosperity. It cannot come in the future. When you honor, acknowledge, and fully accept your present reality, where you are, who you are, what you are doing right now, when you fully accept what you've got, you are grateful for what you've got, grateful for what is, grateful for being with a capital B. Gratitude for the present moment and the fullness of life now is true prosperity. It cannot come in the future. Then in time, that prosperity manifests for you in various ways. I think there's a lot to that. That's, to me, like a high-level teaching. I think you can go deep with that. And it's very similar to what you had spoken about, is with the other quote where, there is this satisfaction or a contentment that we can have in any given moment. Like when I was in the hospital recovering from brain tumor surgery, even in that, not, at first blush, that doesn't sound like a good time, but even in that, I was able to have moments of deep appreciation Sometimes it was the absence of something like a loud beeping heart monitor, but it does exist. I think that's the point that I have found so extraordinarily helpful over the years is, it's always there. The possibility to feel grateful about something is always there, regardless of our circumstances. I don't know if I'm in extreme. I think in extremes, I think I do sometimes, but like I'm thinking about Nelson Mandela being in jail for 27 years and still, had this amazing connection to himself and his spirit throughout it. Or, think about Helen Keller, who's another great teacher, or Anne Frank, or, go down the list of amazing people. And the thing is like, we know about them and they're amazing for things that are not beyond us. None of those things are beyond us, but because they have been beyond most of us as a way of life, they seem so remarkable to us. So like within each of us, there are these kernels of mastery. I don't know what we want to call it, but these attributes are available to develop within all of us. It's just the practice of whatever you want to call that brings it to the forefront.
Right. Look at, again, I hate to keep coming back to COVID, but it's so present in our lives, right? And just like the things that we had to endure, and obviously a lot of people lost a lot of loved ones, and being home with their kids and not having jobs that they loved and not be able to go into them, or even just go out to the grocery store feeling safe or whatever. I think that really probably brought into focus just, again, having gratitude for the simple stuff like toilet paper and that kind of thing. So, and I have to say, Eckhart Tolle, like one of his quotes has been my lifesaver when I'm anxious, is that I can always handle the present moment. And I have to tell myself that I can handle this present moment. I don't have to worry about the past. I don't have to fret about the future. Right here, right now.
It doesn't surprise me that that's one of your quotes. I have almost the same one, but it's a little different, that I think, and I've taught it to so many people, is there is never a problem in the now. Like if you are here and then like I tested, but what if like I'm in a lot of pain, like to myself, I do this. And then the next time I'm in pain, I'm like, he's right. It's not a problem. It's like, okay, this hurts. But if I'm sitting with the hurt, it's not, it is what it is. So if it hurts, it hurts. If it hurts and I need to cry, then I cry, but that's not a problem. That's just what's happening in this moment. And, like a lot of, maybe the worst thing we can imagine was, what if it's my last breath? What if I'm dying? It's like, even that. And when you're looking at that from the outside, who knows what our death experience will be, but it's a moment. It's a moment that we're present in and that we experience, and that's it, So I do resonate with that touchstone, the same thing I've used countless times, of there is not a problem in this moment,
Right, because to me, it brings to mind like how you're labeling something. And so in yoga, we joke that you're not having pain, you're just having a sensation, right? And you're the one putting the label of pain on top of it. So I love that idea that, are you making this a problem? And yes, it is maybe an unpleasant experience, but are you the one that's creating it to be a problem? And I've heard this quote before, that women especially like to create problems. I don't know where that came from, but I do tend to agree with that, so how can we look at the label? And I think having gratitude for things can help us shift that label, right?
Well said, sister.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. So I suppose it turns on its ear things that maybe, the gratitude practice can take us into places that might not make sense from the outside, or if this is something new or that you haven't gone too deeply with. And the next person I turned to get a little inspiration about this was Brene Brown, the shame researcher, I think is how she identifies herself, PhD writer, speaker, inspirer. But she has something she's talked about in terms of gratitude. And I have this quote where it's not joy that makes us grateful. It's gratitude that makes us joyful, which I loved because, sometimes we're looking for kind of that payoff, like gratitude's going to give me something. But it's like, well, I suppose you could say that it does, but it's an act in and of itself that produces something like joy, as opposed to like, well, if I do this, it's going to give me that. I don't know. There was just something about that. The way that she wrote it is that practicing gratitude makes us experience joy, as opposed to like, we could be, we could have joy about something and feel grateful for it, right? I mean, and we do. But she said in her studies, she was surprised to find that practicing gratitude creates joy, right? So, and I think you and I have just been describing that very much in many circumstances, where it's the practice that creates this feeling inside of us, as opposed to, just experiencing it maybe one-dimensionally and saying, oh, it's a gorgeous day, I'm so grateful. But it could be, I'm so grateful. Wow, that brings me joy.
Right. I think it brings your lens, it puts your lens into a different focus, right? So if you're always having that underlying practice in your head of finding things to be grateful for, every day you're finding things to be grateful for, I feel like then your mind is opening up to more like, oh, look at that. Like I wouldn't have even noticed that if I wasn't practicing this internal practice of just noticing and being present and open to what's going on around me, right?
I like it.
And I have found that to be true, right? If we're kind of that positive versus negative mindset, like if we're looking for positive things, then I think people find what they put their mind to finding, right? Like if we want to find negativity, it's everywhere, right? But the same for positivity too. And I love what you talk about joy, because I think we had a discussion. I belong to the holistic organizers group, and so we talk a lot about, just things beyond organizing. We were talking about happiness versus joy. And we were talking about the idea that, and many of us agree that we often felt joyful even when things were going down the tubes, right? Like there was still that inherent, very deep feeling that we have some joy in our lives versus being happy, right? So happy, like, yeah, something great happens, or you go out to dinner, or you celebrate something, then that's a different expression of joy. But joy is really the core feeling, like love, right? It just comes down to carrying that nugget inside of you. So it made me think of that for some reason. So
yeah, you're reminding me of a teaching about joy is an aspect of our essential nature, whereas happiness is more, kind of like that cloud in the sky sort of experience, or an emotion or a feeling that's transitory. But joy is like a bedrock, or like the bottom of the ocean there. Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yes. Transient versus, permanent. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think I had one more piece I wanted to toss out here around this. From an organization, awbw.org. And this, I don't know that I've thought about gratitude in this way, but what they have to say is, while some cycles, like the cycle of violence, need to be broken, gratitude is a cycle that, when supported, has a profoundly positive impact. It supports our well-being with long-lasting effects, including boosting our mood, increasing our patience, and reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety. Gratitude also supports creativity, as Deepak Chopra asserted. Gratitude opens the door to the power, the wisdom, the creativity of the universe. That has a lot that really gets my synapses firing. I'm like, yeah, the cycle of gratitude. I had never really thought about that, and thought about, it kind of harkens back to your quote about the positivity of as you perpetuate a cycle of gratitude, and you were talking about how it can change your lens and how it can affect all areas really of your life, from one simple practice. It's pretty extraordinary, really.
Right, because I feel like it raises our vibration, right? And as the vibration raises, and everything comes with it. Even if, again, you're in a place of maybe not so great things happening in your life, it can still bring everything up just a little bit, which is always sweet, right?
Oh, yeah, I think like you had mentioned, you still being in a COVID world and coming into winter, and what is this winter going to hold for us as we all move back inside here in New England anyway, with the cold weather. And yes, we with with the shots wearing off, and do we need boosters? I mean, there's always some sort of hurdle, right? But again, this practice may make for a different kind of winter if our listeners choose to tap into that a little bit and experiment, or dedicate, say maybe come Yule, when I make my deep dive into the dark season, this is something I'm gonna wrap around me like a nice quilt, and see what happens if I do this. Because another thing that I one of my cores that I live by is direct experience. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Experience it for yourself, and I've always found that to be a principle that I hang my hat on. And so, I mean, we're saying all of these things to you today, but try it on yourself and see, how it, have some direct experience with what you're grateful for, and experiment with times. Maybe it's easy to be grateful. Maybe it's not easy, but see what happens in those different scenarios, and learn, learn,
Absolutely.
deepen, grow. Yeah.
Another practice that, and it's again common this time of year to like, oh, let's go donate our time to somebody, but really just helping someone else can really elevate your own feelings of gratitude, of just, perhaps seeing how others are living this life and realizing how good we really do have it in some ways. So that's another way to, and I think it's about getting outside of yourself and not being stuck in so deep in your own little ruts of like, again, expanding perspective and really looking around you and noticing that not everyone is living the same life as you.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Always a lovely chat with you. I love it. So
yeah, this feels the same to me. And I do feel like there's a lot to be gained from having this conversation, and, sending that ripple out to whoever tunes in, and let them take it and make it what they, need to make it this month. Yeah.
yeah, and I'd love to hear what people do for their practices as well, because that's like
Yeah.
you said, you hear about that and then you incorporate it into your own ways and see what resonates with you and see what doesn't. And I mean, that's how I developed my own gratitude practice. So yeah,
Nice.
awesome.
All right. So what else, my friend?
I don't
Is
know.
it our card pull time,
I think
or?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else we want to add about gratitude and attitude of gratitude. Oh, I think the other thing that when we were first talking about this topic was also, how are we being, showing someone else we're grateful for them. We talked about that genuine making eye contact with somebody and really authentically thanking them, right? It's so easy to
Good
toss it
point.
off as, oh, thank you, whatever. But I do. And I feel like when I go to the grocery store, I'm out in public, like I just have this mission to be love out in the world and just really connecting, even if it's just for a brief second. So that's something else that we had talked about as part of
Thank you.
having gratitude. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to say more about that, or.
Well, I think it probably just it highlights what we've already talked about in some ways, but it's, when we sort of chug through our days, a way to bring presence to the day is by having authentic interactions along the way. We can get very habituated into, yeah, how many times have you seen the same guy at the checkout counter? And it's very perfunctory. But what if you were to, as he's handing you your change, really look that person in the eyes and say, thank you, and mean it, it's different. It's really different. I go to a coffee shop sometimes, and there's a guy that checks me out. And so, that's not the way to say it. It's a guy that he
Yes,
does not check
girl,
me out.
get it
He's probably
out.
17, but but he and I have like a nice vibe because we interact. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. It's like, and so then, there's this thing that happens where there's a connection where it's like, hey, how you doing? And, there's an engagement as opposed to just sort of rifling through the line and shuffling to get to the next customer. And so, I mean,
right, because that's not being in the moment, right? Like you're just like, oh, here's your thing, go on. Like you're the next, it's not being present. So yeah.
Just the littlest things like that.
I love that. Yeah, and I try to like notice things about people, like their earrings or their whatever, their mask or whatever, and just, and it's not to be inauthentic to make comments about what they are, but just to like really see, again, be really seeing them. And I have heard people say, you just never know what anyone is going through at any given time, and just that brief interaction could be something that really changes things for them. So,
and I have had experiences where people tell me it has made a difference, right? Where people make a point of saying, and we had that conversation the other day, I really felt seen, or, you really heard me, and this isn't always like a close friend or somebody like that. It's like that, just showing that appreciation back for being appreciated. I've had that experience. And sometimes it doesn't come back in those exact words, but it's happening, where you have, I'll just use the word invested in someone in terms of just being authentic, because it does sometimes take energy to be authentic rather than just be lazy and be superficial with someone. Do you know what I mean? It like takes a little extra step to, first of all, be aware of that, and then to take an action. Because like you said, if maybe you're noticing their mask, you have to be awake enough to be noticing their mask and not just, numbing out, tuning out, or whatever, right? I mean, there's something to that. But I don't know if it was, I don't know. When that then becomes the way that we operate, then that itself is a joyful thing. That is something that you can say you're grateful for, is all of these great, like authentic, true interactions that enrich your life, your day, and, it's a circle. So that person can't help but feel it as well.
Right,
and
and why else are
sometimes,
we here? Why else are we on this planet?
that's
Like it's
right.
human interaction, absolutely, connection.
Yeah, it always comes back to connection, in a word, whether it's self-connection, connection with whatever, nature, a stone, a little kitten in the other room who's hiding. I got a kitten, everybody. So yes, or, human being, whatever. Yeah. So
sweet.
Yeah. Elfin, everybody, is his name. And he is just a magical little being, but he's still so skittish. You can go in and pet him for an hour. He loves to be pet, loves to have his belly rubbed. I say he's got the lawnmower purr, because once it starts kicking in, his whole little body like shakes. It's so dang cute. And he has like a little white mustache. He's all black and he has white boots. And as my friend Pat Heitman says, he has a white ascot, like his chest is white, and little white wisps that come out of his ears. But because he's a stray, and because, he's had whatever his life experiences are, it doesn't matter how much time any of us spend with him. If we leave the room and come back in, he does what I call the kitty hiss. It's a little, it's just this tiny little, that's all he's got. I'm like, dude, we just had a thing here. We had like an hour like pet session, but this is how it is with little babies. So, but super grateful for.
I know, I could tell you're very grateful. The joy was just,
yeah.
Those of you watching the video, you can see how joyful she is. You can probably hear it in her voice. So
yeah, he's exactly what I was hoping for. And hopefully in time he'll be a little lap cat, but right now he has his little safe spaces, But I mean, I could go on forever. I mean, he just has he just opens, he just opens to everything when you pet him, and his little paws, the little nummy thing they do with their paws, or he might like stretch up one paw like this, and like he'll just touch you. He's not a biter. He'd give you little kisses, and it's like, what else do you need in life, right? Because he's happy about being pet, but like all of the love that's coming out of him when I pet him is just this little 3.5-pound thing, but love of the universe is just all over the place. So
right. And they totally bring us into the present moment. My
yeah.
sister's cat will often, when we're doing yoga, especially when we get the straps out, forget it. The cat's like, oh, it's playtime. Okay. His name is Obsidian, and he's just like leaping all over the place. And so, yeah, you're really in the moment when they're around. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it is good stuff. Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to shuffle the cards. What do the cards have to tell us? So we're using the Goddess deck because we just freaking love this deck. Goddess Tarot. She's even the cards that can be messages are a little more challenging for us. She still manages to make them feel like good.
You're not
feedback.
Getting cut off at the knees.
Right. Well, when I pulled the Tower last year, so I try to pull a card for every year, and the Tower was my card for this year, which has definitely been very present in my life for most of the year. I was just like, what the hell? But then I was reading it, and it just, again, it's about positive, like burning down the old structures and everything.
Haven't you been doing, you've called that forth.
Girl.
It's not like it happened to you. It's like you happened to it, I would say,
exactly.
Right?
I'm embodying the Tower this year. So, okay. So, Three of Cups.
Oh, that couldn't be any more perfect, for Pete's sake.
Right.
Love it.
I love it too.
Joy.
So yeah, there's beautiful, they look like three goddesses, Maiden, Mother, and Crone. Beautiful. The sun shining behind them, the ocean beyond, and just sharing in the receptivity of life. Yeah. That's what I see in the cards. So,
I always think, well, of course, it's a cup, so vessels, emotions, feelings, right? Very in tune. I always think of cups as heart energy as well. And in some of my other decks, that card is called Joy. Yeah. So I feel like a deep sense of that bounty. And then the 3 is such a trinity. I mean, that's such a holy number, no matter how you look at it. Every spiritual understanding has that trinity kind of energy to it, so that's really cool too. I can see that tie in. Yeah.
And what I didn't mention in the research I found, and I've already known this, but just to see it captured, is that how many religions really have gratitude as one of their core practices as well. And so just thinking about that spiritual tie-in as well too. So yeah, just this whole coming together for the holidays and people hopefully gathering with their loved ones and raising the cups of gratitude and harvest. And yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, I'm just going to see what Kris has to say about it in her interpretation of it. Celebration, joy, and harmony. Do I really need to say anything more? I mean,
drop the mic. I think we're done.
Podcast is over, ladies and gentlemen.
We are good. We are good.
Oh, well, the universe provides. I totally believe in that. So, yep, pretty much that's what she says. So that's all I need to say about that. So listeners, yeah, just diving in deep into this whole lovely practice of joy and gratitude.
So let's see. Our soul tending, self-care in action.
Yeah, what are you grateful for this month, Miss Deborah? The lovely Deborah Fay I know you're getting ready for your event of Deb has been on a creative tear lately, everyone. So if you're in the local area, come check her out. So
I am grateful for the radical creative practices that have provided so much healing on this healing journey. Like I would say that for those of you that are needing healing, to tap your creativity as a companion for that, as an expression of that, because creativity has always been second nature to me as, I think, a young adult. I think as kids, we generally just express those things in different ways, but just as a way of life, you interact with the universe so closely, in your imagination, or little stories you tell, or like I remember making grass forts for my dolls, and, just things that just come out of us. But lately it's been especially helpful with the journey of, healing through all of the things I've been going through. And as an extension of that, it really just became clear that that's where my bliss lies, and that I need to really see where that needs to go and just follow it. And so on the 27th, if folks are local, from 11 to 5, we're having a Handmade Holidays open house at the Little House. And my son, Nico, man cub, has been making some fabulous salvaged wood, like antique wood, shrines for altars or oracle cards or statuary or nature bits. And it's something I've wanted for a long time. And because I really like the idea of kind of having a special place, like when you pick a card, I love having like a place of, honor for it, and not just like leaning it up on your wall or laying it on the table. That's fine. But for some reason, I just have always wanted like something special to put it on. So I asked Nico, would he make some things? And he's not a woodworker per se, but he has become one quickly, because I said, well, could you make it with a Gothic arch, or could you make it? All really started that part because we went to the Todd's flea market, and I was looking for something that could be an altar for my tarot card. And don't you know, the first place that we went to, pretty much the first thing I looked at was this thing. And I was like, wouldn't that be perfect? It's like this wooden, I'll call it a structure. Didn't know it was actually of course, this is what happens when you start to look at things with your own creative eye. It's like, well, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but what I see is a card altar. And so $7 later, I'm taking this thing, and then I'm like, Nico, do you think you could use that as a template and make that an altar? He's like, yeah. And what it was a boot remover. That's what it actually is. And I'm like, no, that is not. It may be, but however, this is what we're doing. So yeah. So of course, Steve comes home, and the first thing he says is, you got a boot remover? I'm like, no, I got a tarot card holder. And so that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's what that is. Okay.
That is hysterical. Oh, it's like an archaeological dig. Like, oh, what is this for? And you're like, that is not what they used it for.
So now it's turned into this whole other thing, because now we have Gothic arches, we have big ones, wide ones, thin ones, miniature ones. And then I said to him, well, I make these Sacred Heart medallions that are talisman, and they have an attachment so that you can wear them with a safety pin. But some people are like, well, I don't know that I'm not necessarily someone who would wear a pin, but I love the idea of having, a hand felted heart, and I have these different milagros or charms on them that signify an energetic signature, and they can be a totem animal, or something that you're trying to heal, or something you want to create. So I said, do you think you could make something that we could put them on so they could become like a mini focus point or an altar, or someone could put them on their altar, so that when they're not wearing them, they can still have a space imbued with that energy. It could still be a visual focal point. So of course he's like, yeah. So he comes back, and we have salvaged barn board wood that he's made, and he's like, well, and this is what we've been doing, is like collaborating, and I'm like, well, this is not going to be stable enough. He's like, well, Mom, what if we put a pedestal under it? I'm like, dude, go do that. And he's like, well, Mom, what if we made like a little like altar table for your mini altar tin boxes that, I'm like, yes. So one thing, we're just in this super creative, collaborative space, and it's been a blast. So
sweet. I love it.
It really is. I keep telling him, I'm treasuring this time because I know that it won't always, we won't always have this, but this has been such a blast. Like literally, I can hear him sawing out back because he's out in the driveway. He has like his space, that he sets up. He's been doing this day after day now, making these things. And
I know, and I told you, looking at him, like, I can't believe he just started doing this, because they look professionally done and well,
I know,
established. And yeah, so
you know what, I actually, I have to do this. I got to show, well, I was going to show you one of the it might be too tight. Okay, yeah, I can. So this is what the original one, this is what the boot remover, this is the template. So it looks like that. And again, this is 1860s salvaged wood that we've gotten from, but like, dude, right? Doesn't a car just want to be on that? Yeah, so he's
amazing. Well, I was thinking you could also use it to charge a special crystal and the full moon and anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just has unlimited possibilities. So.
Yeah, it really does. Sweet. So anyway, that's that. So thank you. So come on by, people. Yeah, 11 to 5 on the 27th. And if not, you could always, I am making arrangements for some people if they want to come and shop on their own. If there's a few people that want to get together a group, or you just can't make it at that time. And you can always, we're going to be on Facebook Live showing things, or you can just reach out and say, I want to see what you got. So I'll be emailing pictures and such too. So it's going to be a good time.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. So.
And I'm grateful, I have to say. Well, first of all, I'm grateful that we got together for Samhain. So we had this beautiful gathering.
Yes. Thanks to you.
Circle sisters in the area. Yes. I was so, I just feel like it taps into that whole divine feminine, being together in circle and just being women and being ourselves and talking about all the things that women talk about that we don't necessarily talk about in front of men, but just getting together and really sharing that connection and just raising the vibration for all of us. So I was grateful
fire
for
pit,
that. Beautiful
fire.
We had a gorgeous night for
Good
it.
food.
Absolutely. Food, always, gotta have food, right?
Food and drink.
Really have something without chocolate, right? But what I'm grateful for this month also is, my kids are in their late 20s now, and they're really spreading their wings. And my daughter's up in Vermont working in a home with people with Down syndrome. And so her expansion into the divine feminine and really being in touch with her feminine side. And then my son, who's naturally divine feminine, and he's like, Mom, what does that mean? And I'm having trouble articulating it for him, and I'm figuring out how to describe it so he'll understand. But he actually is out in Lake Tahoe for 6 months he's going to find a job out there and hopefully do some skiing, but just really the bravery of my kids to really be stepping out and figuring out what their lives are going to be like, and just seeing that blossoming for both of them. It's just been, as a mother, so gratifying. And of course I miss the heck out of them, but thank God for modern technology and video and all that. So yeah.
Nice work to all of you. Nice life path working. It's beautiful to witness from outside, but also knowing, if it was me, how I would feel being a mama with a baby cub. Always be a baby cub, even when they're man cubs and women cubs, and
right,
they're always our cubs. Yeah,
right. And maybe not following the traditional path. So it's just having the bravery and just being able to listen to themselves and their authenticity is amazing. So yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's time to open our circle then.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so just invite everybody to come back into the physical space of your being, into your body, and to just take a moment to just be focused in the body, in this experience that we've all shared with the energy and the topic of gratitude. And all that it has brought us in this time space. and all that it will continue to allow us to contemplate and to engage and explore and experiment with in the days ahead, and to appreciate and to maybe gain insight in some deeper and more significant ways as we choose to interact with this experience. And as we move forward into this traditional here in the States Thanksgiving experience, what can we maybe bring to it that perhaps we didn't last year as a result of this conversation and time that we've had together? And that we can take the inspiration of this discussion and maybe some of the tools into the next chapter of our days ahead. For the blessings and the addition of the energies of our guides, illuminated beings, angelic realms, the energies of Goddess in her many forms, from the 4 elements and directions to the Earth Mother herself, the inner wisdom that guides us in these conversations, in these podcasts. We are grateful. And we thank you and release you back to your own space and time and energy. For all of the ahas and the connections made, the energy that was brought together like a beautiful web of light at this time, we thank and release. Knowing that our circle is open but unbroken and continues to carry these frequencies with us no matter where we go. And most certainly in the heart chakra where this work this month lies. And may we be conscious heart energy in the world as we go forward now into our lives in whatever ways that we do walk this earth. And so for this time and this experience and this space, we give thanks. And so mote it be.
So mote it be. So grateful for you, my dear.
And you.
I'm grateful
My
for
Bee
our
Priestess
community.
sister.
Alrighty then.
So until we meet again, folks can consult our notes to learn about the particulars of what we've spoken about. And until then, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, however you celebrate. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Love you, friend.
Love you too.